Welcome back to SpearBang Tutorials with SpearBang Productions. My name is Tim. Uh, this is part 2 of the graphical user interface in Animator. The first thing that we're going to get into is the file mode. The file mode is actually quite useful. You have the standard new, open, close, save, save as, and save all. You also have a browser which allows you to pick a folder from a directory, a file from a folder in a directory. You have configure, which allows you to set up like your project directory, your textures, your imports, your images, your scripts, so you can keep everything in a nice, neat, organized folder, which is pretty handy. Also down here we have configured the GUI. Up here in the general, you see the show grid, which shows the grid. You got fast focus, which I leave on, and you got show labels. Down here at the bottom you have the wireframe, show creases. You got show axis. You have the transparent faces. Down here you have the solid view. You can also have the smooth outline if you want the outline on the smooth, or if you want the points on the smooth, or if you want it when it's smooth you have no points whatsoever. Another thing down here at the bottom is the render and preview. It shows progress. You don't have to have that. Alright, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the page setup, the print preview and print. This is just like any other one. This is dealing with your printer. Then of course you have exit, and at the bottom you have a easy way to reference models that you have done in the past. So let's look at the bow here, and I can click on it and easily load it. This is something I made prior. Excuse me. Alright, the next thing that you have up here is in your edit mode. Now you of course have cut, copy, and paste. You also have a select all. Now what select all does is just what it says. It selects everything in the object layer on this, in this group, all groups. Next down here we have hide. If you have an object selected, you can actually hide the object. You can also show all objects too. So if you're hiding something to work on, no, it's not lost. You can always just show it. You also have delete objects. You have rotate, which allows you to rotate really quickly and without doing anything, really fast and quickly. So that's another really cool thing. Then you have your scale, which you can scale by 2 or scale by 0.5, or you can do a custom scale. You can also locate. You can also stand about origin. Stand on ground, stand on origin, or center about origin. If you center about the origin, it goes completely in the center of the model, which is, again, very handy. Next, you have your flip normals and your fixed normals. I believe fixed normals is if you have a few normals that are rotating, a few not. We're going to test that theory. I don't use fixed normals. So to test this theory, select the little faces. We're going to flip these, flip normals. Then if we go to edit, select, or just select all, edit, and normals. Okay, well, I'm not really sure what it does. Okay, well, Who knows? We're not going to use that anyway. I've never used it before. Let's go back in here. Let's flip our normals again. So planet we're in, I don't know. So in the box mode, we'll select it that way. Zoom in a little bit, so we can't just select these by themselves. Again, making this hard to select. Now, all is not lost. For some reason, it's having a problem selecting. There we go. Now, edit. Flip them normals back to normal. Okay. Now, we're going to go into the merge points. Now, merging points is if I had two different points, I mean, it's self-explanatory. If I had two different points that were close together, let's say these 2 points, and I wanted to merge those 2 points, what I would do is select both points, edit, and then merge points. 0.5 is fine. And you can see that it merges the 2 points together. Alright, next thing we have here is edge properties. And we can do smooth, crease, or round it in the actual levels. Zoom out a little bit. Still zoom back into the front. Make sure we get the whole thing in here. And this allows you to set the edge properties. You can do smooth, you can do creased, you can do rounded. Do a level 10. Oh, excuse me, a level 7. And now it keeps the lines at a rounded angle. So when you go into convert to subdivided, sorry, you have to have a single mesh to do that, my bad. And obviously we do not. Alright, now we go to convert to subdivided. And you can see our bow is now really, really high poly type. And it keeps its nice, smooth, roundish appeal. One of the good things about converted to subdivide, and we'll get more into that pretty soon, considering that really the rest down here is self-explanatory. You have fill holes, which we've already went over. We have detach face, which just allows you to detach a face from the frame. We have bridge, which allows you to bridge two together. Flatten, which allows you to flatten. Merge faces, which allows you to merge faces together. You have connect edges, cut edges, subdivide single faces, and loop cut. A lot of these we're not going to go over right now. And as far as the modes, we're not going over. Object, we will talk about this real quick. If you need a new object, you can click new. If you want to import a new object, you can import it, or if you want to export this object, you can hit export and export it from 3ds, a C, a standard wave font, or if you have a plugin. If you have a wave font plugin, you can do a little bit more. It exports the texture mapping and a lot of other, other things. The next thing is the options. We have, of course, the material tabs. We have the grid. We can change the grid and different things like that. If we're going to snap to grid, this is the place where we can do it. We can hit enabled and put the spacing to whatever we want. We're going to put it on 1, so when we snap to grid, now we can move the object, and it's going to snap to the grid. See how it now snaps instead of nice and smooth. Okay, next, under the options, we have the info. So if you need to know how many polys, how many faces, how many edges, this is the place that you would want to go to. Also under options, you have tooltips, which are pretty handy, and then you have debugging information. You can show frames, check structures, 3ds offsets, split texture 3ds points, dummy 3ds, K-data, different things. Some of those are useful, some of them is not going to be used in this tutorial. Just know that when you get more advanced and you need those features, some of these features are here and they can be used in Animator. So don't think that Animator is completely limited to beginners, because it can do some quite nice things. Here you have the view, and all this is really self-explanatory. Of course, this is the wires, this is the flat, and then you got the smooth. You have the preferences, which allows you to, your OpenGL workspace. You want it smooth, flat, lines, or whatever, which is your camera and all that. Also your file output, and, if you want anti-aliasing, and transparency, if you want to use fog, shadows, or textures, whatnot, and also the frame rates. And pretty much the rest of this is, fairly well self-explanatory. This is your advanced environmental editor. It allows you to limit your Z. Alright, now the next thing we got is build. Build has a lot of really interesting things in it. You can group, if you select two objects and hit group, you can group them together. You can also ungroup them if it's in a full group. You can convert an object to mesh. You can convert it to subdivide it, which I already have, and you can also convert it to a spline. I don't use splines. I don't understand splines very well, so I don't ever really use them. You can also join solids and join splines. Here's your modifiers. You have different types of modifiers. You have the bind modifier, unbind modifier, and the effect modifier. When you make a modifier, you have to put it around the object and select both of them, and then you would bind the modifier, and then you can choose what type of modifier and things that you want to put on it. The next one's the morph targets. We're not going to get into. Reference images we'll probably hit on a little bit later. It's basically to put an image behind the model so that you can reference to actually build faces and organics more efficiently by using a reference. The lathing tool, which we went over last time. The extrude tool does just what it says. You can make a path and then extrude it depending on the actual settings. You can flip the object, you can mirror the object, and you can also subdivide all the faces. The next one is scripts. This is where you load plugins and etc. Rendering is just for rendering an image. If you want to do a quick screenshot or a render, you can go to render an image and pick what you want and etc. And it renders the image for you. Next, of course, is the settings. You have object, which allows you basically to name the object. You have components, which is parameters, materials, texture, UV, and shadow. We'll get into the texture parameters, but that's pretty much it. Also, we have default, which allows us to go to default materials if we had a default material, which I don't. Window, of course, we can have new, and we can also project info, so if I want to put a little bit of an information on the project, I can do that. Also, we have the about, which is your OpenGL information, your system information. It tells you what system you're running on, what type of video card, and etc. Then you have your license, which tells you about, Animator. Then you have the actual about, which tells you which version you're on. That pretty much sums up every option in this top button. This top window. They're very easy to read and very easy to understand. You shouldn't have any problems with a little playing around. You'll be able to create stuff that looks fairly decent and is able to work with whatever you're working with. One thing I want to show you before I went and finished all this is messing with subdivided objects and how they can be very handy. If you look, although this is extremely subdivided, you notice we still have the original structure around the object. That's because we convert it to a subdivided object. And what's really neat about this is that it's got more polys than what it's showing. So it really allows us to, let's go to the left here, and it allows us to change and manipulate a lot easier. Let's select these 2 points right here, for instance, and let's make our handle a little bit wider. We can now do that, and you can see how it keeps the smooth aspect of those polys. Same thing if we wanted to bend it a little bit more and make it look a little bit more curved. What we could essentially do is select just these right here points. Just the points right here, and we can scale it, and it would keep its curvature the best that it can, depending on how far you bend it, which is a very cool tool. It really allows you to change the effect of the way something looks with very little actual manipulation. Let's go back to the left to give you one more of an, a little bit better of an idea here. If I was to make this handle with 2 polys, and I was to spread this out or scale this out a little bit larger with the original polys, it would look real chunky and square. You would have a diamond shape in the center that protruded out to a point on each end. But since it's extruded, we can, since it's converted to subdivide, we can do this and scale it out. As you can see, when we place the object back in its little thing, we now have a handle that looks more rounded. Like you can get your hand around it a little bit better. Then once this is completed, you can go over here, select your object, move it around, make sure it's the way that you want it. Go to build, convert to mesh. Now when you go into your poly window, you will see that your bow now has all the polys that it didn't have before. Once you've converted, once you've converted back to regular mesh, there is no going back to that original state unless you, of course, undo. If you've gotten too far along in this model, remember you can't convert it back into a subdivision without it again multiplying all the polys. And to give you a real quick idea of what I'm talking about here is if I select on this model again and I went to convert to subdivided, you'll notice what happens is it smooths even more, and then when I build it and convert to mesh, it's so many polys now that you can't even really see the texture because there's so many vertex and things. So remember, you can't do that, and you got to keep that in mind. But this has been part 2 of the graphical user interface of Animator. I hope you've learned something, as I've enjoyed making this tutorial. Thank you.